Hey Puzzle Buddies, it's Bree, and in honor of the World Jigsaw Championships, we're back with another speed puzzling video. I actually am taking a break from watching the live stream to do this recording, so I'm like pretty hyped right now. This is a puzzle that I picked up from Goodwill for $1.09, which is a great deal. But as you can see from the tape, I hadn't opened it yet, so I wanted to go ahead and take a quick peek inside to see what I was getting myself into, because you never know with thrifted puzzles. It could be great, it could be awful. The pieces looked pretty good, and the poster was even still in the box, so I was pretty hopeful that, all the pieces would still be there. I went ahead and taped off the sides of the puzzle, one, because it's going to help me make sure that I stay in frame while I'm filming, but then also, I figured this would help me to kind of like visualize my working space. Of course, I know I can't do this in any sort of like actual competition, but while I'm training, I thought this could help. I was ready to get into this one, so I started the clock and just hopped right into it. This time I wanted to actually do a full flip and sort. So the pieces closest to me are the border. And then in the middle, I have all the guitar pieces. Off to the left are the peppers. And then on the right, I had everything that just looked like fabric. I wasn't bothering to separate anything out, just whatever looked like some sort of fabric. And then up in the top are my like unknowns. Those are the pieces that I can't tell what it belongs to just off the bat, so they just have their own little section. Now, this sorting did take me a solid 15 minutes, but those pieces were sorted, okay? So this puzzle is Peru by, I believe that the brand is Big Ben Luxe, I'm not really sure, but either way it comes from Milton Bradley. Now the box says that this is made in China, and it also says the content may vary from the pictures, which I'm very curious as what that technically means, because the whole point of the picture on the box is to show what the puzzle is. So I'm not really sure, but the puzzle is 24 by 18 inches. As you can see, I started with the border, and either my measuring with the washi tape was off, or this whole like the contents may vary. Like this is what the box was talking about, because the border was much smaller than what I had initially mapped out. And I think that threw me off as I was working, because I was expecting more pieces, because I was expecting like the whole bit of washi tape to be filled up. And then, I don't know how, but I just completely overlooked or misplaced. I just did not see that little section of that bottom border that I just left floating in the middle. But I did eventually find that. Alright, now we're getting into the meat of the puzzle, and I wanted to start with the guitars first, because that was the biggest section, and they had, very separate individual colors. The white and purple guitars were pretty easy. There was only one of each, and those, I got out the way pretty quick. I didn't realize that there were two different blue guitars when I was doing my sorting, so I did have to separate those out. And thankfully, even though they were the same color, they had different details. So like one of the blue guitars had yellow flowers, and the other one had purple flowers. And then even with there being like two yellow guitars and two red guitars, for both of those, also like one yellow had flowers, one yellow didn't have flowers, one red had flowers, one red didn't have flowers. So that did help. I did the green guitar next, because I knew there's only one of those. Next, I went to separating out the yellow pieces. So the pieces with the flowers, it was pretty easy to know that that had to go with that top yellow guitar. But just because a piece didn't have flowers on it didn't necessarily mean that it did belong to that bottom yellow guitar. So there was a little bit of trial and error there, but we got it sorted. Now, the red and pink guitars really tripped me up, because again, the flowers, that it goes to the top red guitar, but the absence of flowers wasn't a guarantee that it went to that bottom guitar. And then they also both had some pink, so with the pinker pieces, I wasn't sure where they went to. So that part did take me a little bit of a minute, but we got it. I just about finished the guitars, so the next big section I wanted to do was the peppers. Now the peppers tripped me up because, for example, like with the guitars, if a piece was white, you knew that it went with the white guitar. If it was purple, you knew it had to be over in this area. But with the peppers, there's a little bit of red here, there's a little bit of red over there, there's yellow here, there's yellow there. So I couldn't just like target one thing at a time, so I had to look for a piece at a time. Like, okay, I need one with red on the out, green on the in, and then like a little yellow in the corner. So I had to do that for the whole thing. I finished the peppers, and I must say, while that sorting did take me entirely too long, I did a pretty good job with that sort because I was only missing 3 pepper pieces. I had all of the border on the first try, and the only guitar bits that I was missing was like the little black and gray bits in the background. So I did a pretty good job. But now it was time for the harder parts. So I started off trying to separate out the remaining 3 textures. And the first one that I tried to tackle was that pile of fabrics in the upper right. There wasn't any particular like pattern or any real like organization of the colors within this section, so I didn't really have a plan when I went into it. My eye was naturally attracted to those little spots of brighter colors, so I got those connected pretty easily for the most part. But then after that, the majority of the rest of this section is either blue or green. So once I realized that that was all that was left really, I just kind of piece sorted within that section. So once again, I was going just like one spot at a time, trying to find the one piece that goes right here. And then if I felt like I couldn't find it, I would go back into that little unsorted pile that I had going. And then sometimes another piece would catch my eye that I knew went somewhere else. So I'll just go ahead and put that piece where it belonged. And then once I felt like I wasn't really making any more progress, I went ahead and switched over to the upper left. So I had a handful of pieces that I knew had to connect to the very top, but I was working off of the image on the lid of the box, and there was like a label covering that part. So I really couldn't tell what the pieces were supposed to be doing. So I moved on to the little chunky blocks of color in the middle of that section, and then I ended up coming back to the top a little bit later. So I went back to my pile of pieces and I picked out the ones that I knew couldn't belong to either of the other sections. So I knew that they had to belong to that top. And I just kept shuffling them around until they kind of started to make sense. And then I finally finished at least most of that roll of cloths on the left side. And then on the remaining pieces, I noticed that there was a straight line going down the middle of some of them with like clearly 2 different textures on the pieces. So I knew that those had to be in between the top left and the bottom left because they were very distinctly 2 different things. And then some pieces had like a random tab of pink or red, so then I knew that those pieces had to be lined up with the guitars. I got all of that in, and then all that was left was the baskets. Now with the rolls of cloth and the pile of fabrics, they had lines that at least clearly oriented like which direction the pieces should face. But the baskets didn't have that. It was just that weaving pattern over and over, and they could go any which way, especially because the baskets are turned in different directions. So I was kind of feeling like I was a little bit screwed here. So around here is where my husband actually started watching me because he knew I was getting close to being finished, and it was making me nervous. But if I ever do any sort of like in-person competition, I guess I do have to get used to having eyes on me. So I didn't yell at him, I let him stay. But I finally got those last few pieces in. And I was done at 2 hours, 3 minutes, 55 seconds. So basically 2 hours and 4 minutes. Now, according to my husband,
you really had it at 1 hour and 50, but you started crashing out for some reason.
All of these lines are the same. And honestly, he's right. Especially watching this back, I definitely could have been finished at least 10 minutes sooner. But it was just me and those baskets. Those baskets just messed me up. Overall, I will say I enjoyed this puzzle. It was ribbon cut, but the pieces were all like slanted or a little bit curved, so I didn't have any false fits. The image was bright, the printing was clear, and pieces weren't too thin. It was nice. But I will say this, The box advertises fully interlocking pieces, and that is a bold-faced lie. Okay, I couldn't even pick up 2 or 3 pieces to move them around the board. They crumbled when I tried to do the pickup challenge. Didn't even stand a chance. Speaking of, I do actually do the pickup challenge with all the puzzles that I do. Do y'all want to see those? I've just been filming them and not doing anything with them. I went ahead and added my time to the myspeedpuzzling.com website. A few people had recorded times for this one, with the fastest being 1 hour and 4 minutes, which is significantly less than my time. But honestly, I'm still pretty proud of it because I'm 8 minutes faster than the last puzzle that I did, so I'm happy. Make sure you like and subscribe if you want to see more of my videos, and leave in the comments any tips you have for me to get faster. Thank you again so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.